You're watching Sports Shorts Daily, presented by LeBear's Casino and Hotel in Baton Rouge and the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame Museum in Natchitoches. You can follow Sports Shorts Daily by going to our YouTube page, Sports Shorts, hosted by Ronnie Rance, and get our 15-minute weekday video.
Welcome, everybody, to Sports Shorts Daily, presented by LeBear's Casino. Ronnie Rance in the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame studios, being joined by Tommy Chrysan over at Tremonti's Meat and Seafood in Baton Rouge. Hope everybody had a great weekend. And Tommy, it was a strange weekend. No LSU, Alabama. There was a sign that I saw in that. Well, I guess by the time they play next year, it'll be over 1,000 days since Alabama beat LSU in football. So at least that's good news. But still, no LSU, Alabama. I missed it. I know a lot of fans didn't. The restaurants were packed all around town in Baton Rouge and New Orleans. People enjoyed the beautiful weekend. But even though I thought LSU would have gotten boat raced, I still wanted them to play.
Well, yeah, you sign up to play. You know, you're in the SEC. The Alabama's number one team in the country. People forget this. You don't get a chance to play the number one team that often. Now, in the SEC or the ACC, you do because of the run Bama and Clemson are on. But no, I wanted them to play. I know they're probably got the big whiteboard going in the SEC office. I think they'll try to play this game at some point in the future. LSU wants to play the game from a financial standpoint. They're taking a beating in the budget. And even if they can let, 20,000 fans in, that's money, the TV money. When the game's not on TV, you don't get the TV money. So LSU athletic director would like to play this game at some point going forward. Now, they're going to play Arkansas this Saturday. The SEC released that statement the other day that, this weekend's games would remain, but everything going forward is subject to change.
LSU's getting ready to play Arkansas this Saturday, and the Tigers were a 44-point favorite a year ago. They are finding themselves initially a 3-point dog to start the week. I can't remember any swing like that in LSU football history. That's absolutely incredible. What's more impressive to you, what Arkansas has done winning 3 games this year, or what Ole Miss has done and how Lane Kiffin's kind of got them rolling offensively?
I think Arkansas is more impressive because they went 2 years without winning a conference game. Sam Pittman comes in there, and, he's got Felipe Franks, which helps, an original LSU commitment, by the way.
Yeah.
That helps. And, I've always thought Arkansas had good football players, and they always seem to play LSU tough. I think their story is a little more impressive than Ole Miss. If you look at Lane Kiffin versus Sam Pittman before the season started, you'd have expected Lane Kiffin to do what he's doing. Maybe not throw the clipboard 80 feet in the air, but that was so cool. But, I think Lane Kiffin is good for Ole Miss. He's good for the SEC. He's good for college football. I've always liked him. A friend of mine was on the staff at Alabama, Joe Panunzio, when Kiffin was there. He couldn't say enough good things about Lane Kiffin as a person, okay, aside from his offensive knowledge of football. But I got to answer your question, I give the edge to the Arkansas story is a little more impressive than the Ole Miss story at this point in time.
SEC West, Alabama's 6-0, Texas A&M's 5-1, Auburn's 4-2. You got Arkansas and Ole Miss both 3-4, LSU 2-3, and Mississippi State 2-4. The boot. By the way, is we think of LSU being way better than Arkansas. When you think back to when Arkansas joined the SEC in the early '90s, with the exception of some some runs that Arkansas had. Overall, you think, LSU's been, way better program, more dominant in that series. Not the case. In the last 14 matchups, they're 7-7. Arkansas and LSU are 7-7 against each other. That's hard to believe because really the last 14 years have, been pretty good years for LSU. So Arkansas has kind of been a thorn in their side. So this one's going to determine who's got the lead in the series in game number 15 in the last 15. So the boot, which the last couple of years, LSU beats Arkansas, they carry it off the field, no big deal. It means something now. Arkansas, I don't know how many fans they're going to allow in the stands, but they're going to be fired up. That's a tough place to play. It's probably going to be cold. LSU hasn't traditionally played that well up in Fayetteville or Little Rock back in the day. This will be in Fayetteville. But LSU wins. They move into 4th place in the league by themselves, and it actually is a meaningful win against a team that they'll unbelievably be an underdog against. This past weekend of the SEC, there were only 3 or 4 games that were played. Florida just continues to really look the part, and Florida, to me, with what Trask is doing on offense, I think it can actually be a decent game in the Georgia Dome. I think Florida will actually be able to move the football and make it a decent game against Alabama when that time comes.
Well, he's got more touchdown passes, the same amount of games in than Joe Burrow had last year. Yeah. But, let that sink in for a minute. They're incredible offensively. The talent, the skill, the speed. Dan Mullen putting his offensive touch on everything. His ability to develop quarterbacks is amazing. Going back to his days as an assistant at Utah to Urban Meyer when they had Alex Smith. So, and the list goes on. So, Florida is very, very impressive. A good friend of mine who's a Gator fan was texting me this morning and said when Florida and Bama play in the SEC championship game, it's going to look like a basketball score. 78-74 might be the final tally. But Kyle Trask, keep this in mind, all you young guys out there, you parents who have a kid on the bench. Kyle Trask never started a game in high school. Never started a game. He played, but he never started a game. And look what he may win a Heisman Trophy this year. So, and he's got, he's arguably the best quarterback in the country. Yeah, and there's a bunch of good quarterbacks, but it's truly an amazing story. If somehow, some way, Florida can figure out how to play defense, wow, they give Alabama everything they want. That people are already looking forward to that matchup. A little ground to cover between now and then, but Florida's just been amazing. I saw a good bit of that game the other night, and it's just like they could score on any play. It doesn't matter if they're on their own 10-yard line or midfield. I mean, they can hit the home run on any play.
Yeah, it's a shame we're not going to get a chance to see Miles Brennan play against Florida unless, as Coach O called it last week, a miracle happens, because I think Miles Brennan could do some things, against that Florida defense, but we're not down in the swamp on December 12th, and you'd feel like by then, too, the offense would be a lot further along with him at the helm, but we're not going to get a chance to see that. So I don't think that game's going to be really close at all. Florida's schedule is pretty easy from here on out. They're at Vanderbilt this week. By the way, Tommy, congratulations to you. You're 7-0 in your last 7 college pick'em games, 3-0 last week, 4-0 this week. Florida opens up at I think 31-point favorite at Vanderbilt. If you can get it at 31, because it's going to jump up, take Florida, right?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, Vanderbilt played a little better last week, but they were playing Kentucky. And believe me,
I'm not buying that.
No Florida. Yeah, I'm not putting any weight behind that. But certainly you got to like Florida going forward with scoring points. And I mean, they're just fun to watch. Like LSU was fun to watch last year. Florida's fun to watch this year. So is Bama, but Florida has really stepped it up a notch.
Yeah, Florida's got Vandy this week, Kentucky at home, and then at Tennessee. And, you never know. Tennessee is kind of up and down. They might be able to give them a little bit more of a game than we think. And then, of course, they take on LSU at home. And regardless of what you think, LSU's not going to beat them. I don't know if they'll cover, but offensively, there's no way without Miles Brennan they'll be able to, put up the points to keep up with Florida. So they really, I think the at Tennessee game is the only one that's a little bit of a tricky one for them in the last 4.
That's going to be no problem. Yeah, I also watched Ole Miss the other night. Will Muschamp, he's out at South Carolina. They fired him, and the word's already flying around. Bring him in at LSU as defensive coordinator. He was a coordinator on the 03 national championship team. Spent a couple years in Baton Rouge with Saban. I talked with Will a bunch back then. That's when we used to interact on a regular basis with all of the coaches. And, the word on Will Muschamp is that he's a much better defensive coordinator than a head coach. Curly Holman was a much better defensive back coach than a head coach. Some guys just aren't cut out to be head coaches, and maybe Muschamp's in that line. I'm not saying LSU needs to go get him. This is up to Coach Orgeron. A, if they're going to make a change. B, who might he go get? But that word's flying around big time out there. And by the way, Will Muschamp gets $13 million to walk out the door.
Right. I think Will Muschamp's going to be very picky and choosy where he ends up. And oh, by the way, Tommy, I get it that he was a very good defensive coordinator He has not done that in 8 years plus because he's been a head coach for the last 8 years. South Carolina not known for defense last this year for sure. They've been terrible on defense. So, I don't know if the market is as burning for him as we would think. And oh, by the way, when you got 13 million to just hang out and chill and relax, I don't know that he's burning to go make it happen. He might want to take a year off and do TV and kind of, once you get a taste of that head coaching spot, it's hard to go back and be an assistant and not be the boss, even if it means taking a lesser job.
Yeah, we'll see on that. Now, and what matters to ULL, South Carolina, Billy Napier's name's being bandied about. Not saying he's going to get the job, but he's certainly going to be, I would think, he didn't leave ULL this year because inside he told some people he had a really good team coming back, and they've won the Sun Belt Western Division for the 3rd year in a row. But his name's going to be bandied about, as will Hugh Freeze, and there's other names already flying around. But ULL fans got to know that Napier, name going to get mentioned. We don't know what will happen, but that's a credit to Napier and his staff and the Raging Cajun program.
Well, they had a big win against South Alabama over the weekend. That's the 3rd matchup in a row. They're 7-1, I believe, or 6-1. Let's see. They beat Iowa State, which got them ranked. They beat Georgia. What's that?
They're still ranked. They're 24th in the AP poll, 25th in the coaches poll.
Right. I'm just trying to see where they're either 6-1 or 7-1 on the year.
7-1, I believe. I could be
7-1. Their next matchups that they have, they play Central Arkansas. They host Central Arkansas this Saturday at 1:00 in Lafayette. Then they go on the road to ULM, who hasn't won a game this year.
That's actually in Shreveport.
They're going to play that one in Shreveport? Okay. At the Fairgrounds Stadium where the Independence Bowl is being played. That'll be Saturday, the 28th at 4:00. And then they've got their big nemesis, Appalachian State, who's only got 1 loss on the year. They got to go to App State. It's a game that got postponed. That game was supposed to be earlier in the year. It'll be in December 4th at 6:00. That'll be a Thursday game or something like that. So it'll be a national televised game, and that'll be for all the marbles, to win. And if Billy Napier wins that game, and they win, no doubt he's going to be a super hot name. He's from the Nick Saban coaching tree, and that's all you need to have these days.
Yeah, his name's going to be out there, no question, not just in South Carolina, but in other places as well.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the news that came out just about an hour before we broke. USA Today with a big story about LSU football, the sexual allegations that were kind of surrounding the school and the program with Darius Geis. Now this article kind of shines a brighter light on some other athletes, some other non-athletes, and basically LSU's being put in a bad light on a national level by USA Today and an investigation that's been going on for a number of months, that LSU just as an athletic department and as an institution maybe has not handled all of these allegations to the way that maybe by the letter of the law. And we will see, but this could be some troubling times. And it's definitely a bad look right now with everything else going on negatively with the football program and athletic department at the moment. This isn't a good look right now, Tommy.
It's at USA Today. Anybody can go read it. It's a very long article. The old days of newspaper continued on page 8. It's one of those long articles. I read the whole thing shortly before we began taping Sports Shorts Daily, and it's concerning. It's disturbing in a lot of ways, and there is a due process, and we're going to find out. But it's not a good look for LSU. And when you read the article, there's some incriminating things about the way this has been handled by LSU, the athletic department, the football program, however you want to label it. It's just very unfortunate, especially in what has been a tumultuous football year for LSU and for everybody. I don't mean that with the pandemic thing. I'm talking about, not having the success, the opt-outs, the different things that have happened with this program on and off the field. It's really tough. It's a tough read, man, because you start reading and you start going, really? Like you said earlier today, right? In today's society, with all the things that we've seen happen, back to the Ray Rice video and other things years and years ago, how anybody could not cross every T and dot every I in this process right now. And if you read the USA Today article, which is like 3 people that worked on this article, it's not something they whipped up over the weekend. This is something they worked on for months and months. It's a little disturbing and does not look good for LSU. there's two sides to every story. I get that. Perhaps we'll hear what LSU has to say.
Zach von Rosenberg, the 30-year-old punter for the Tigers, tweeted out shortly ago after the article came out a little bit of defense of his teammates by saying, hey, every time one of these allegations or whatever, some of these incidences were brought forward back in the day, they were addressed as a team, meaning by the coaches, and they were told about the incidents and obviously given direction on how to make sure you don't put yourself in any situations that could be misconstrued in the wrong way. So his comment was basically that all this is bogus. That said, Tommy, the way when you hear what Zach says, when you read this USA Today article, it feels like this. It feels like Darius Geis, and we'll talk about him because he's the main big headline name in this. There were other names, but his situation is what brought all this attention, mainly because, oh, by the way, he's had 3 allegations of abuse and whatnot up in D.C. He was cut from the Redskins, the Washington football team. He's out of football right now, and he's going to be suspended pending an investigation. Heck, he's trying to stay out of jail up in the D.C. area. So because of that, that's what brought attention to these stories and these alleged incidents. The bottom line to me feels like, Tommy, at first, the first time or two, if you really believe your player, there's a lack of evidence, it feels oogie, you do your part, you do your due diligence on both sides, I can see you giving the benefit of doubt maybe a little bit to the athlete. But at some point where there's smoke, there's fire. When there's just so many, and then now when we look back at the last 5 years, there's so many allegations, there's so many alleged incidences that it's hard for me to say one of them didn't happen. Obviously, I hope that's the case. And then the other side of Tommy is it feels like LSU kind of did the right thing, but maybe didn't do the right thing all the way. They might have followed the letter of the law. They might have followed the rules of investigation to 5 of the 10 steps, but maybe not all 10 steps. When you've got alleged victims that are in this article claiming they're not being communicated with, claiming they're asking to receive their paperwork from these incidences, and they're being told, no, you got to wait 6 years to the statute of limitations. So when you're hearing some of these things, it feels oogie, and it feels like some of the steps are being handled correctly by LSU, but not all of them.
Well, the other thing about the article, you have the victims' names and pictures are part of the article. It's not like, the unnamed person. So it's disturbing. And I'm going to agree with you. I don't know if they crossed every T and dotted every I. Did they go A to Z? Maybe they went to A to R or something like that. But, it doesn't look good. And, Zach Van Rosenberg defended Ed Orgeron and the whole situation vehemently on Twitter earlier today. I retweeted it. And we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. I know Verge Osbury was on a radio show Monday morning in Baton Rouge. And he said, hey, there's a process. He couldn't comment. That's the answer you're going to get. But I think due to this article, everybody, Tiger fans, football fans, people in Louisiana are going to want to know the rest of this story whenever it can be obtained.
The other thing, too, is there's situations that don't involve LSU athletes that are brought up in this story that involve the way LSU has handled some other incidences of not even alleged. Some of them are, they found guilty or the perpetrator pled no contest, but yet still stayed on campus, which is, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know what the rules say in a book. But it feels that if I plead no contest to stalking a victim, and that goes to my school, I probably should be expelled or asked to take the courses online, or at least expelled or suspended for a semester. Heck, if I go get less than a 2.0 a couple of semesters in a row, they're going to suspend you, right? So why can't you at least do that with expel or suspend for a year or so, one of those situations. So again, a little bit oogie on how it's handled. And the big thing, Tommy, is not a good look right now. You're having a bad year on the football field. You're dealing with all this COVID craziness. We've got the pictures that came out with Coach O and his new young girlfriend that was a distraction for a week. You've got, and oh, by the way, recruiting season they haven't signed yet. LSU is one of the top 5 recruiting classes in the country. They haven't signed yet. We got to get to the middle of December for that signing day on December the 16th. And all these things, not playing Alabama, losing, having a bad season, losing. It's going to be hard to get to the finish line, Tommy, with all those people on the dotted line, with all these little incidences popping up.
Well, there's certainly question marks. There's certainly a couple of clouds in the sky that, might bring some rain. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I think everybody just needs to sit back and let it play out. And hopefully it's not terrible for LSU. But as we sit here today, mid-November, it doesn't look good.
Let's talk about the New Orleans Saints. Yesterday, they pull off a win. Now 6 in a row for the Saints. They are the number one team in the NFC right now. It's the number one seed, technically. Although Green Bay looked good, Tampa Bay had a good bounce back game. Tom Brady got right back on track. Bad news for the Saints. I mean, they were a mash unit after the game, but they held on to win 27-13 over a not very good offensive team by the 49ers.
Yeah, I watched the game yesterday, and Saints started off poorly when they were down 10-0, and they scored 27 unanswered. And here's the thing: lots of injuries, but when Drew Brees goes to Sean Payton after halftime, says, "Coach, I can't go," it's at least a couple of weeks now. They're saying he's going to have an MRI scheduled for Monday afternoon, but they're thinking it's going to be a couple of weeks. Now, Jameis Winston got in, and he looked a little shaky, threw some inaccurate balls, but he doesn't get the reps in practice that he will get this week going forward, and be able to maybe be in a little bit better shape when the Falcons come to the Dome this week. So, we'll see. I think that'll help Winston getting all the reps this week. I wouldn't think Brees plays this coming week. Time will tell on that. But it was that's 4 years in a row now that the Saints have had a 6-game winning streak. That's pretty solid, It's a solid team, but they're going to have to regroup with all the concussions to the receivers and the tight end. And they got a lot of bumps and bruises in that 49er game, starting with Drew Brees. We'll see how they can handle that going forward and get ready for the Falcons. The Dirty Birds come to town this Sunday.
Mike Neighbors of CST always does his post-game interview with Drew Brees on Saints tonight on CST on every Sunday. And Drew Brees said it wasn't just that one hit. It was a culmination of hits that led to him getting hurt. It was, he came in banged up, and then when, he was sacked and landed on, it exacerbated the situation, but it wasn't just that one play. Jameis Winston did not look good when he came in off the bench. Threw some terrible balls, looked nervous. The technique has always looked weird, but he's always gotten it done. He doesn't throw the prettiest ball in the world, but he's usually pretty accurate. He was not that accurate. It looked like Michael Thomas was frustrated and grew frustrated with him because he's used to turning around, the ball being where it's supposed to be, and the ball wasn't anywhere near where it was supposed to be. So going to be interesting to see what Sean Payton does. Does he put him as the quarterback? Does he go Taysom Hill? You obviously will see a lot of Taysom Hill, even if it's as a backup.
Well, I don't know about that. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to follow the transaction wire this week. If Brees is ruled out for Sunday, do they bring in some other quarterback or get somebody off somebody's practice squad? Because, yesterday, as soon as Brees got hurt, a friend of mine sent a text, said, well, they're not going to put Hill in anymore because if something happened to Winston, he's got to be the quarterback. Now, they did do that, but, it's just up to Coach Payton to figure out how he's going to handle it going forward. I think if you had to bet a Tremonti's hamburger on it today, you'd say Brees won't play this coming Sunday. Time will tell, though. But you got to get Winston those reps and have a plan for the Falcons.
It'd be nice if Drew, even if he can't start, is healthy enough just to be your third string emergency, quarterback that could play to hand the ball off, even just to get you through a game or something. The problem is that that's not your only problem. I mean, the Saints are banged up. 2 of their offensive line, Pete and Armstead, both left the game. You got defensive guys going down. I mean, it's a bad deal right now.
Armstead did come back in, so that's a plus. But we'll have to see. Injury report that comes out Wednesday is going to be interesting, and may get some info later today. Tuesday's a day off for the players, so we'll see how the Saints handle it going forward.
But I tell you what, Davis played a heck of a game at linebacker for the Saints. I mean, he was all over the football field. It was impressive. Tell us a little bit about Tremonti's Meat and Seafood, Tommy.
Well, you got to get your Thanksgiving orders in. Fried turkey, rotisserie turkey, smoked turkey, ham. You want a half a ham, all the side dishes. Go to Tremontis.com, click the seasonal tab. The holiday menu is right there with all the pricing. There's an order form. You can take care of it all at Tremontis.com. Connect with Tremonti's Meat and Seafood on Facebook and Instagram. They can do the game processing for all you guys that like to hunt. They can take care of that here. The daily lunch specials, Buffalo Trace whiskey, still $19.99 a bottle. They'll get you in the door with that wine selection. Tremonti's Meat and Seafood, but most importantly, you can order for Thanksgiving right now. They'll give you all the details when you pick it up, all that good stuff. Go to tremontis.com or stop by 12451 Old Jefferson Highway, right next down the street from Parkview Baptist, or you can give them a call. Just check it out. Get your order in now. They'll confirm it for you and give you the pickup time. Tremonti's Meat and Seafood doing a great job, as always, with all of their good stuff.
Tommy, I got to tell you, Gardner Johnson, forgot to give him a shout out. I mean, you can see why Michael Thomas gets frustrated with him in practice, because he is all over the field. He doesn't ever stop talking. And that he had his best game of his NFL career going until he got banged up at the end. But with Gardner Johnson and Davis, it seemed like they were the only players on the field at one point.
Well, you know what he reminds me of? And you and I both played a little basketball back in the day. He's that guy that plays defense like he's always by your feet and your ankles and your knees, and he's always reaching and slapping for the ball, just driving you nuts. That's how in basketball. That's how he is on the football field. But we talked about the high motor Cam Jordan has last week. So does Gardner Johnson. So does Demario Davis. Quan Alexander was amped up yesterday, his first game as a Saint. So, yeah, we got to hope that they're all healthy and can, continue forward for the Saints.
The Saint getting the number one seed used to be you wanted to be a top 2 seed. Getting a number 1 seed is the only way you get a bye.
This year, right.
It's going to be tough, I think, Tommy, if Drew Brees is out for any amount of time. If he misses one game, maybe they could game plan for the Dirty Birds, and it's a big rival. And, Atlanta's had its problems this year. Maybe they can get by. But if he's out, and I don't think they go 5-0 like they did last year.
Probably not. Probably not.
I don't see that happening. So, they need Drew to get back, maybe miss one game if they want to hopefully be the number 1 seed. Because, look, Tampa Bay, I know they got handled by the Saints. They're not getting handled like that again by anybody else. And they're really, really good. And so Tampa Bay is going to roll off a bunch. I really like what Aaron Rodgers is doing. That division's trash anyway. So I think you have no room for error. I think the Saints are going to have to go 7-1 in their last 8 games. They already went 1-0. So, I mean, basically they got to win 6 of their last 7 games. You got Kansas City at home. Most people giving you an L on that one. So you basically got to win all the games you don't play that aren't named, when you're not going against Patrick Mahomes. And in order for that to happen, they need Drew Brees.
They need Drew Brees. I agree with that 100%. You would expect Winston to be better with the practice reps this week, but you're right. They need Drew Brees, and they need to try to get that number 1 seed.
TK, have a good one, man. We'll talk to you on Thursday.
Hey, don't forget, got a bunch of podcasts dropping this week, Talking Sports with TK, lots of LSU stuff, some college and NFL picks later in the week. All your major platforms, search for Talking Sports with TK or connect with me, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'll make sure you have what you need.
And don't forget Sports Shorts Daily. We're on YouTube. Go to YouTube and like Sports Shorts, hosted by Ronnie Rance. Or, of course, you can give us a follow on our Facebook page, Sports Shorts, each and every Monday through Friday. Sports Shorts Daily, and we'll have a lot more for you throughout the week. Tommy joins us Mondays and Thursdays from Tremonti's Meat and Seafood in Baton Rouge. Have a great week, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching Sports Shorts Daily, presented by LeBear's Casino and Hotel in Baton Rouge and the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame Museum in Natchitoches. Don't forget to follow Sports Shorts on Facebook, Twitter at sports_shorts, and check us out on Saturday mornings from 10 to noon at Sports Shorts Radio on 104.5, 104.9 ESPN Radio in Baton Rouge.